died of gunshot wound in the brain. Dr. Berkeley told me it's a simple matter, Tom, of a bullet right through the head.
When one fires a rifle, nitrates from the explosion mist onto one's cheek that is cradled close to the hammer of the weapon. Warm paraffin applied to this area picks up the nitrate if present. When the cooled paraffin cast solidifies and is peeled off. Oswald didn't have any nitrates on his right cheek. Nitrates on both hands suggests soiling of the hands with something common that contains nitrates. Like ink from the books he handled at work. So Oswald tested negative for having fired any weapon on November 22, 1963. The latent palm print on the alleged murder weapon is a blur and insufficient to make any positive identification of the person. So said Lieutenant J.C. Day of the Dallas Police, who lifted the print in the evening of November 22, 1963. He had taken one class in latent print procedures and did not follow them precisely. The next morning, Sebastian F. Laytona, the supervisor of the latent fingerprint section of the Identification Division of the FBI, found no sign of any fingerprint work on the rifle and found no latent prints. What was forwarded to him 7 days later was this blur, which is unusable for fingerprint identification. Nonetheless, the Warren Commission identified it as Oswald's latent palm print on the murder weapon, which had to be made by Lieutenant Day from prints taken of Oswald's dead body before he was buried. The best way to unravel the murder mystery and further disclose the cover-up is to trace the path of the witness shots and qualify the three-shot assassination. Note that use of silencers and/or grouping of shots in flurries are two ways to allow for more bullets while preserving the generally accepted sound of a three-shot assassination. The map shown, developed from researcher Don Rubito's more detailed, annotated, and scaled map of the assassination, shows the closely approximated position of most bullet hits in Daley Plaza the day of the assassination. Each hit is indicated by a red dot with a red circle around it. Internet and book references for these shots are as follows. Starting at the top, there are at least 3 spots in the street that sparked or smoked to indicate a bullet hit to the viewer. One near Johnson's car, one to the right rear of the limo, and one to the left front. These occurred in the first part of the shooting between Z150 and Z225. Just before Z225, the president was hit in the back and the neck. Sometime after Z230, the limo windshield was hit. Some have reported this to be at Z255. The Stemmons freeway sign was hit and removed by the city within the first 1 or 2 hours after the assassination. The curb near Mary Mormon on the south side of Elm was hit. The sidewalk in front of Zapruder. Connolly took chest and wrist/thigh hits. The president was hit in the head. The windshield frame was hit. The manhole cover on the south side of Elm was hit, and the curb on Main near the underpass caused a fragment to hit spectator, Mr. Tague. There were a couple more grass hits, probably a few more limo hits, and a few more street hits that occurred, but I'll limit the number to those shown on the map. The way I tested for validity was to take each hit and align it with Kennedy's head using a ruler for all possible head positions within the kill zone, Z150 to Z320, and projecting past the president, see where the bullet could have originated for that shot. This is the straight line bearing of each shot aimed at the president and landing where it was observed. There were reports of gunmen in the east and west windows of the 6th floor of the book depository, 3 open windows in the Daltex building, 2 on the 2nd floor southwest side and 1 on the 3rd floor south side. There were possible rooftop shooters from the county records and county court buildings. There were 2 suspected Knoll parking lot shooters. There was evidence of a shot within the limo, and the front windshield shot was witnessed by 2 police officers and a medical student to be front to back when they saw the windshield at Parkland. Alignment back toward the front suggests a shooter on Commerce Street or on the overpass near Commerce. The first 4 shots occurred at approximately Z150. The firecracker sound was due to the use of Mannlicher ammunition, which went out of production 20 years prior to this murder. Pop, pop, pop would be the sound, as timing was not well coordinated on the first series of shots. I'm suggesting one of the Knoll shooters hit the freeway sign and the bullet ended up near Johnson's car, causing 2 hits during this sequence. The manhole cover also lines up well with the limo at Z150 and the Daltex southernmost west facing. The sequence of these shots is not critical, only that they occurred early and sounded like firecrackers and were all attempts to hit the president. The second flurry of shots occurred near Z225, as alignment of bullet hits through the president's head is good back to the suspected shooter positions. Shot 5 would be the tag shot. 6 is the throat shot, which would have come from either Knoll shooter. 7 hit the sidewalk in front of Zapruder. 8 hit Kennedy in the back at a steep down angle of about 45 degrees, as witnessed at the autopsy and later reported by Hoover. It was a Mannlicher round, weak and unable to penetrate more than an inch or 2, as was the frontal neck wound. And 9 was the windshield shot, occurring between Z230 and Z255, that had to come from the region of Commerce Street or the bridge to be reasonably aimed at Kennedy. A short sequence at Z290, shots 10 and 11, hit Connolly in the back and the wrist from 2 different locations, with Connolly more or less facing Zapruder. Shot 10 shows the correct bearing and elevation for a right rear armpit to 2 inch below the right nipple exit. It came from the county court building. Shot 11 is a down shot from the west window of the book depository for an unobstructed wrist to thigh hit. Shots 12 through 14 are the last flurry, counting the smoking shot from the Knoll, 12, the fatal shot from the driver, 13, and the windshield frame shot, 14. 12 and 14 are probably weak Mannlicher rounds, as 12 smoked and 14 barely dented the windshield frame. While these alignments show reasonable bearing toward the president, a simultaneous side view of elevation is required to test for reasonable accuracy in height of the shot near Kennedy's head and correct distance of the bullet landing. Each shot here was subjected to both bearing and elevation tests. Using Don Rubidoux scaling and the height above sea level, or HASL numbers, from the shot map, here's the side view of the first 2 shots. 1 landed to the right rear of the limo and 2 landed front left of the limo. And for shots 3 and 4, we show the elevations for a Knoll shot through the freeway sign and hitting the street near Johnson's car, and a shot from the southernmost west-facing window of the Daltex building, which had the correct height for a headshot at Z155, but was off to the left, or it was a few inches high at Z170. Shots 5 to 7 include the tag shot, the neck shot on Kennedy, and the Zapruder sidewalk shot. My calculations showed the 5th shot 3 inches high on Kennedy's head, but with perfect alignment at Z225. 6 was a hit on Kennedy's neck from the front. and 7 should have been a hit but was probably a bit off to the right. Shot number 8 is the County Records building roof shot that hit Kennedy's back. The down angle from the building is 24 degrees, but the bearing is off 39 degrees. The resultant complex angle of entry was 45 degrees off of perpendicular to Kennedy's back. The track of shot 9, which came from Commerce Street area, is shown in several views here. Some have speculated that small facial wounds on Kennedy were caused by flying glass from this shot. Shot 10 was an unobstructed hit on Connolly's back at his right armpit that exited below his right nipple, with a down angle in the 20-degree plus range. No other shooter would have the correct bearing for this shot at this time. Shot 11 is also the correct bearing and elevation for the wrist thigh hit. Shot 12 is the smoky shot from the knoll, which was in line for a hit but must have been off to the left. The fall on the bullet to the limo is in line to have hit JFK in the neck-head area. The fatal shot and the windshield frame shots do not require a test for height. The frame shot was a foot or two off at 120 yards.